What's going on? Welcome to another vlog with your boy Chris. Thank you for coming back to the channel. Thank you for being here with me on another episode of the Success Series. Episode number 7 on non-judgment. What do I mean by that? Well, stay tuned. First, you gotta hit the like button, smash and subscribe. Share it with your friends and family because I know a lot of you say that these videos change your life and they're benefiting you and the way that you operate, but share that with someone else. You know, there's somebody else that can use that. There's somebody around you or even a stranger or on your Instagram story, a stranger that's gonna see it and it's gonna help them too, you know what I mean? So share the video, like it, drop a comment. Let's get the videos trending and get the views up so that way we can get the page growing and bring more awareness to a larger group of people. I love you guys like always. Let's jump into it. Non-judgment, what do I mean by that? By non-judgment, I mean not judging every single situation that happens, every single thing that you're faced with, every single obstacle, every single good or bad time, whatever the case may be, not putting a title on every single thing in your life. And reason for that is because we have a visitor. Reason for that is because I'm not one to really believe in good or bad per se. Like, I think that everything has positives and negatives. I've talked about it on multiple vlogs before. And I just think that when you're able to see both sides of a situation, whether it's a situation that's not the most ideal one and a tough time that you're going through, or a lesson that you're having to learn, or just something that's not going the way you want it to, there's going to be negatives that are obviously occurring to make it be a situation that you would rather not be in, right? But there's also going to be lots of positives in that there is to learn from, a lot of things and lessons to apply to your future and to just better yourself in many different ways, and in many ways that you wouldn't really see if you're just looking at it as a bad situation and something that you're not possibly learning from. Because at the end of the day, if there's something that's not going your way, there's a lesson to be learned, and there's most likely a cycle that's trying to be broken, and it's not going to be broken until you learn the lesson from it, right? So with every bad, there's good. With every good, there's bad. You can own a expensive car, but there's downsides that come to that, right? You now have to maintain that car. You have to take care of it in a different way than you would a different car. The maintenance is going to be a lot more. Services and repairs are going to be more. You're going to have a higher insurance bill. You're going to spend more money on gas. Valet the car and pay for valet because you're not going to want it to be in a regular parking lot where somebody could open the door and ding it, so on and so forth, right? So there's always, with every positive, there's always going to be a negative that comes and equals that situation. Do we see them? More often than not, we don't see it until after we're done going through that. And still not even then, still most people don't even see the positives and negatives. Like, we'll use, for instance, a situation that's a negative situation and a hard time that somebody's going through. Most people don't see the positives ever. Some see it down the road, some see it a few years later, a few months later, a few days later, or maybe right when it's happening, you're like, you know what, like, this is a hard time that I'm going through, and this and this is happening, but I learned this and this, and now I can apply it to future situations and avoid being in this situation, or avoid the same thing happening, or just avoid the way that I'm feeling towards it, whatever the case is, right? So there's always going to be, with light switches, there's a positive and a negative. With a battery, there's a positive and a negative terminal. With chargers, there's a positive and a negative. For your phone to charge, there's a positive and a negative that's being applied to be able to put the power through to the phone, right, into the battery, through the charger, through the wall, everything. There's a positive and negative. There's two cables that are going into the power outlet on the other side of the wall, and there's always going to be, no matter how good the situation is, there's always going to be negatives and drawdowns to that situation, or whatever the case is. And no matter how bad a situation is, there's always going to be, if it's a horrible situation, there's going to be an equal amount of positives that are in it that need to be learned, or things to apply to the future, whatever the case is. And there's no one-sided situation or thing that can happen in our lives, because everything is always in balance. We only see things not in balance most times. Well, actually, even during good times, most people don't even see the things in balance. They're just elated and infatuated with how they feel in that moment. And then when that feeling dies off, or something happens that doesn't go exactly the way they wanted it to, they end up going to the opposite side of the spectrum, and they go from elated to depressed and super upset and down, and the world is against them and life is against them and their life is horrible and blah 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 and so on and so forth, right? So there's always two sides to every situation. There's always going to be, in the hard times, a lesson to be learned, and in the good times, knowledge to be applied to continue, even if it's just to be able to help you to continue those good times. Whether the perfect example is in trading, there's going to be things that you do that make you have a successful trade. If you journal those things and you write down exactly why the trade happened, chances are you're going to be able to replicate it, and you're going to be able to learn and grow from that trade and be able to apply it to the future and make sure that your results in the future are a lot better, and that you're even refining the trade, things you could have done better, ways you could have entered the trade better, exit the trade better, manage the trade better, whatever the case is, right? So that's why I, even on the subject of journaling, I think journaling is so important. And not just in trading, just in life in general. Write down at the end of the night, buy a journal, buy a notebook, get a piece of paper, do something. But write down at the end of the night how your day went, why you feel the way you did. If your day was great, explain why. Why was your day great? Even if it was just you woke up happy, write down what you did the night before, or you have, in that case, you would have it written down what you did the night before and why you're feeling the way you are, right? There's going to be things that make you feel happy, there's going to be things that make you feel sad, there's going to be things that stress you out, things that upset you, things that give you anxiety, things that empower you and make you want to push forward. So if you're journaling every single day, whether it's with trading or just life in general, or when you're building a business or whatever the case is, if you're journaling, you can look back in 5 years from now and say you had an anxiety attack and it never happens, and then 3 years from now you have the exact same type of anxiety attack and you're like, oh shit, I remember that the last time I had it was in August 4th, 2017. Let me go into my journal, let me go grab the journal that maybe I was using. And like, you keep your journals, obviously, right? You don't throw it out when it's full. You keep your journal and you can go back and write down why it happened and compare it to this time and how maybe you helped yourself the last time. Or same thing goes on like a daily basis. If you're journaling, like you can see your progress that you've made as a human being. You can see the progress you've made as a trader. You can see the progress you've made as an entrepreneur. You can see the progress you've made if you're an athlete. Journaling at the end of the day, how your practice went, how your training's going, how you can improve in the gym, things that could have gone better, things that could have gone worse that you're grateful for the way they went, things you need to work on, whatever the case is. There's always going to be room to grow. There's always going to be good and bad situations. There's always going to be bad in a good situation. There's always going to be a balance. It's just our perception, how we view things, and in reality, just what we're really absorbing from what's going on, right? Is it a bad situation? You're only absorbing the negative feelings that you're having and the hard time that you're potentially going through, or the hard thing that was thrown at you, or whatever the case is. Or are you taking that hard thing and that lesson that you're learning right now and saying, you know what, let me journal this, let me write this down, let me meditate on it, let me sit on it, read a book on it, just sit there and stare at the wall and observe how I'm feeling, whatever it is that you have to do. But let me just sit there and figure out what's going on, so that way I can apply this to the future and not go through the same cycle in the future and not have the same thing, the same feeling, the same perception of the occurrence, whatever the case is, repeat, right? Because you want to, obviously, in any situation in life, you want to maximize the positive results and minimize the negative results, right? And I don't mean that in a way of like getting rid of negative things, because again, there's going to be negative in every situation. But like, if you keep taking a trade that you're losing, there's lessons to be learned, but now you need to take those lessons and apply it, so that way you can stop doing that thing, right? Because at the end of the day, it's just all about personal growth and all about learning and the journey, and not applying judgment to situations you're in, not applying judgment to temporary things, like whether it's a trade. Like, yeah, be happy that you won the trade, but just get ready for the next one, prepare for the next one, start looking for the next setup, and that's it, right? Don't sit there and party because you won a trade and then get drunk and you go out and you come back the next morning and you take a loss just because you weren't being disciplined and doing what you needed to stay consistent, right? Learn from it, enjoy it, have a glass of wine or drink a glass of water or a fucking freshly squeezed juice, whatever tickles your fancy, and jump back into it, right? Don't place judgment on any situation that you're in, especially on other people, because at the end of the day, you never know what somebody on the other side of a computer, someone on the other side of a phone, on the other side of Instagram, you don't know what somebody's going through. So when, like, if you see a stranger walking by, for instance, that you're like, oh wow, look at this person's haircut, or look at this person's clothes, like, don't judge that. Maybe that's the way that person is makes that person happy, right? Like, they might be looking at you and they could potentially think the same thing, like, oh wow, this guy or girl looks the same as everybody else walking around Toronto or walking around wherever you are in the world. I'm so happy that I look different and that I'm unique, right? So everyone has their own perspective, but as long as you're not putting judgment and a good or bad, or they should be doing this or they should be doing that to situations, you're gonna live life a lot happier. You're gonna live life a lot stress-free. You're gonna live a more fruitful and enjoyable life, because you're always gonna be learning in the bad situations, and you're always gonna be trying to grow and refine in the good situations. And just understanding that there's balance in everything is super important, and not letting, if you're going through a hard time, dictate the next week, the next 2 days. Don't let it dictate the next 2 hours. Just release it, learn from it. Learn if it's a good situation, learn what you could have done better. If it's a bad situation, learn what you could have done to avoid it, so that way that exact same situation doesn't repeat itself again, so on and so forth, right? So I hope that this gives you some reassurance through the good times, but also more so through the bad times. Just like in reality, how things happen in the world, there's going to be things in your own personal life on kind of the same thing, but just in obviously in a different level, in a different context, right? So I hope that you can watch this video, and instead of judging the person that walks by you today, tomorrow, the next day, you look at them and you give them a smile, because that smile, they could be going through a horrible time and be at the end of their rope, but that smile could change the rest of the day, the rest of their week, month, year, the rest of their life, and maybe change the entire path of the life that they're just go the path that they're going on, right? So I hope this was informative. I hope it brought some sort of inspiration and motivation to you to not get down in the bad times, and not get so infatuated and excited about the good times, and just enjoy the journey. Grow as much as you can as a human being in whatever it is that you're trying to grow in, whether it's trading or whatever the case is. Enjoy life, because it's short and tomorrow's never promised. And definitely do not put off things that you could do today for tomorrow, because tomorrow again isn't promised. We don't know if we're gonna wake up tomorrow, so enjoy every day. Be grateful for every day. Radiate positive energy, and I promise you that no matter what you're going through, you will make it through it onto the other side, and a lot better person than you were going into it. I love you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you later on in the week. Peace out. All right.